Hey guys, I decided to make another chaining video. Last one I did for mobile when Beautiful Joe was big didn't turn out that good. The audio was cutting in and out. I wasn't happy with it. Crystal Crisis coming soon. I thought this would be a good time to practice some chaining. I believe, even though it's a different game, Vanilla Puzzle Fighter, a lot of these skills will still translate over and be helpful for Crystal Crisis. I did it a little bit differently this time. I decided to pull chains directly from actual live gameplay, give commentary after the fact. I considered slowing the footage down to be able to give more detailed commentary, but I thought it was kind of hard to watch, so I left it. Same speed. I'll try to talk a little bit faster, squeeze some stuff in, and hope I can do it justice. I also included a section in the description below that outlines some important principles from the video that I mention often, some further explanation, also some background about the style, how I chose it, why I think it's better. I hope you get some enjoyment out of this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll get to the chains. Thanks. Okay, we'll get right into things here, guys. Start off on the right side, which is different than I usually do. I usually like to start on the left. A lot of times you'll notice you have a preferred side. But I tried to bury the breakers, and then kind of went into an immediate stack. And then I just stick to the one or two away. I'm keeping every breaker close to the other one, able to add right on. Notice that I could have just pulled the blue there and probably gotten a 5 or a 6, but I held out a little bit, had the stack awareness, put the blue to be able to get this bottom part of the chain, and then another blue came. I was lucky, and it all kind of came together nice. But that was mainly just patience, 1 to 2 pieces away, and just being aware of what moving down the stack. So here again, I like to start in the left. I buried the breakers, and then now I'm just doing the 1 to 2 away. I'm just keeping things close, trying to keep my stack short so I can work off them easy. And I almost missed it here because they didn't come out quite the way I wanted, but it was ended up being perfect, but just in a different way. Here's a little bit of a variable setup here. Instead of going right into, I only bury one breaker, and then I try to use a go into an immediate stack, immediate cascade, and then now I'm just trying. It's important to keep those reds separate. Notice that if I would have connected those reds at the bottom, I would not have been able to get the 7th part of this chain. So sometimes, like I say, you have that tendency to connect them, but it's good to leave them separated. Now here's a middle game chain, and this one here, what I loved about this, how it came together, was that we almost canceled each other out. He ended up taking 12, but that's pretty good in my book, because if you give him 18 or 24, he's probably going to counter on you. It'll mess up anything you're trying to do with change. So it was just the tons of breakers. Everything was my oyster here. There was a lot of different options that I or anybody could have done here to get this going, but that was a perfect opportunity for a mid-game 7 chain. So here, just avoid the breaker on breaker. You get a couple of blues right off the bat. It's best if you don't use the blue on the blue, just to maximize efficiency. That right there, putting that red next to it there, was something that I'd hoped to be able to use. Ultimately, I don't think I can that much, because this one just goes quick. The red ends up getting wasted, but this is the closest to a scoot you'll probably ever see me doing. The only reason was because the bottom was open. But what I probably could have done there was also even get an 8, but I hesitated with the blue and the yellow. So this is a classic. I'm just burying the breakers, but I end up using a different ignition. I'm using the red here, just stack awareness. Now I'm going right down. There's the blue. It's going right down the pipe, and this piece just worked out perfect because it satisfied 2 requirements in one there. So with this here, because the breakers didn't come off the bat, I started with an immediate stack. And I'm going to try to use those greens, but I probably should have used that yellow right there because I needed one to the left. But I'm lucky, another yellow, actually the same piece comes right there. I need that red, and I need a blue. There's the blue and the green, so I can finish this off real quick. This is sort of like a quick six that I talked about, where it comes off fast. I mean, it was just on the cusp of fast enough. You see his diamond in the window there, but that was good enough. Sometimes a six will do the trick. So this one here, really there's not a lot of breakers coming up, but I still keep my options open. Notice that I can build on one side. It's not like quite like a cascade. But here, just I'm trying to do the 1-2 away, keeping the stack awareness there. I got 2 for 1, which is wonderful. You always love when that happens. There's my blue. Now I just need the yellow. I could have maybe finagled this because I had the red breaker there, or I could have gotten one more onto it, but it just didn't work out that well. And you see here, like, Revy had a pretty good attack. And I ended up being almost even with him there, even with a 7 chain. So it isn't always an automatic win, but it can put you in the driver's seat. I think I ended up winning that one. There's the blue I need. Now I'm just one away. Took a chance there by putting the red as my new ignition. As now I got to get a green breaker. So now I'm playing, there's my green. So now I'm playing off, the yellow's my ignition, blue's my ignition, there's my red. Go up, see I got lucky there with the green to the blue. The blue would have been fine. I could have got a 7 here. But because that green was connected to the blue, it allowed me to get the 8. That's that awareness that I talk about where try not to place the last piece blindly. See if there's, almost a lot of times, there's another option that you can do. Here's a modify. I flipped the ignition right there. Originally was going for the blue to get to the red. Instead, because the piece is connected, I use the red. Now there's my yellow that I need. It's wonderful. Now we'll see what else just starts coming through here. A lot of pieces, yeah, you know, you'd love to see more breakers than this. There's my yellow. There's the blue. Got to keep those reds separate up there. And that one I had the awareness. I noticed that I could get one more on with the red and the blue, whereas sometimes you might have been tempted just to burn that red and then use the blue. That's what gave me the win here, was because I was able to eke out that 7th chain. This is another middle game chain that it's really important to try to keep in mind. It's hard to stay disciplined because you almost anticipate you're going to get dropped on. But if you can keep things in mind, in the middle game, a lot of times 6 is enough to get it done. If you can pull off a 6, especially if they're not expecting it, which 99% of the time they won't, you're in wonderful shape. Unless it's really close to the diamond, but even then it's just a good chance. Here, I don't really do the bury the breakers. I do an immediate cascade, trying to make use of all these weird breakers they're giving off the bat. So there's my red and the yellow that I've been waiting for. That's, like I say, the patience on the piece. And there's my blue and my red. That's wonderful. And then now, yeah, in the end here, they're just, in the beginning they were as weird as they could be, but in the end they were about as perfect as they could be. So got them to work out there nice. All right, in here, trying to keep one away. Remember that I need a yellow over there. Post up off the green. I'd hate to do breaker on breaker, but the way things were coming up, there was just a lot of strange pieces. I actually could have used a lot of different things here, but now this is an interesting part where I could use. I have a couple ignitions. Obviously, I originally intended to do the yellow to the blue. But because things came up a little bit differently, they weren't going to come together. I was able to have multiple ignitions there. The different one came up than I intended, but it worked out just as well for me. So anytime a break comes up first, I typically like to just bury you right in the corner, just like that. And the yellow came, so now I got 2 breakers in the corner. I want to use that green. So now notice the green's my new ignition. I protected the red by putting the blue on top, so if they drop on me, it won't get that red. And now the yellow's my new ignition, because the yellow I get to the blue and everything spawns forth from there. I could have probably gotten one more out of this. If I'd have put the red in the pit and then dropped the yellow on top, I could have got a 7. But because that was a quick 6, a dirty 6, it was plenty to win. The speed made up for the lack of numbers there. So here I built a little bit taller than I'd like, but I do have a classic buried break. Well, modified, because there's only one breaker buried with the other one being different. But then here, I'm taking a lot of chances. I got to get her. See, now I did a little bit of digging out there because the red to the yellow would have been tough. But now I get my yellow, and there's the green. So things just kind of came together nicely here. Made an abnormally tall stack in the end. But the breakers are pretty favorable. It worked out that time. So this is a strange distribution. I have one buried breaker, one that I got modified. So I have a modified buried breaker setup. Now I'm pivoting off that green. That's my ignition. At this point, I wouldn't be too favorable thinking the chain's going to happen. I mean, there's just not that many breakers have been coming up, but I probably could have used that green by the side and done a horizontal addition, but instead I was able to catch that even top to the screen there, that I was able to use that blue and yellow efficiently at the end there and was able to get a 7 anyway. It ended up being perfectly enough. So here, instead of going the double breaker setup, I go modified stack, which sometimes there's a lot of ways to do things. I mean, here I use a placeholder. Notice that blue right there, because when I break the blue under the red breaker, I'm going to get the red then the yellow, and normally I'd fall short of the green, but you'll see right here why putting that blue there was important. See that? Fall right in line with the red. That's the first example of a placeholder that I've talked about in this so far in the 10 minutes. That's the first one I've used. So modified stack, I don't want to do yellow on yellow. There's the green, there's the stack awareness. Being patient here. Now I can post up off the green, put it right on the red, post up off the yellow. Perfect. There's my red. Boom. Now I could have used the blue there to then go off the yellow, but I think what I was thinking, I thought I'd use a placeholder there and get to this blue and then get the 8, but I missed it just slightly there. But it was a quick 6, so it was enough. It didn't matter as much, but I should have probably posted off that blue. I would have had a 7 there. Hey, trying to avoid the blue on the blue. Notice that was just some breaker patience there. And now we're going back into classic. We got that there. Using the yellow right away. This is the perfect example of a quick 6. This probably came within 15 pieces. There's nothing he can do. I mean, unless he's got one of his own cooking, there's nothing he can do. That's instant win. So now notice that even though I have the yellow right there, I can just use that last. The order doesn't matter because here's another perfect quick 6. I mean, this isn't even better than the last one. And notice how the yellow lines up. Even though that it wasn't the way I originally intended it, the breakers came strangely. I just improvised a little bit, and it worked out great. So here's a modified stack. This I thought I'd do a horizontal addition there. I didn't end up doing it. Let me see what I had imagined here, because there's the green. Blue. Now the red's my ignition. So I would have liked to have kept that green there. I ended up getting it anyway because I did have one. So let's see. Yeah, the way that I had these set up was just a little bit different. I mean, I got 2 simultaneous ones there, but because I had the tails arranged there, I was able to get an 8. That was almost more akin to a scoot because things progressed to the right. It's a little differently than I usually do them. I don't like how tall this green is, but I still want to be able to use it if I can, but it's a little taller than I like, because notice how I'm quickly running out of space to the left. Yeah, I don't really have much more breakers or anything that I could have used, but it's harder to stack up there. Here's a perfect example of placeholders. I think I use a couple here. Notice how I got a yellow above it, and then now, notice how they didn't break directly there. There was pieces in between the pieces that allowed for me to reach things. It's a great way to use multiple breakers. It's a great way to use things when they don't come up in the perfect order that you'd hope. But that was a different example. That was another placeholder. Here's another mid-game chain. Let's see what we're doing here. Okay. So the yellow is going to be my ignition. And there it is. in the middle, it's just like just anything goes. If anything you can see, if you can get a quick little window of privacy, you'd be in a good position. Here's a modified stack. Notice the blue there. As long as I keep those blues separate, I'll get that one on the tail end. Get my yellow there, post up off of it. Got my red, there's my blue. Trying to use that there, and there it comes together real nice. Now, I actually could have got another one there. If I'd have put the yellow next to the blue, and then put the yellow to the blue, I would have had an 8 there. But because it was such a quick 7, it's just kind of irrelevant at that point, but I could have had 8. It's just always important to look at that last piece to see if there's something else that you could do. And here we just got almost a straight stack off the beginning, just going right down the pipe, hinging off that red, and take it right away. And this one's bread and butter, and then because I had this tail at the end here, you would have been in a little bit even more damage. But wasn't needed. 6 would have done it there. Okay, here's a horizontal addition. That's what I call those right there. I added the breaker first, and then the piece second to the side of the stack. Works out just the same, just a slightly different order. And here's my green. Did a little bit different, kept it next to it. There's my red and my green that I needed over there. And now that piece was just the perfect piece that I needed. I mean, that came together nice. Hey, I think this might be the last middle game chain I include, maybe one more on the right side here. But I got this big blue, and a lot of times you're tempted like, well, he's got a decent red he's making over there. I keep adding to it. So you're thinking like, well, I just like to use this right off the bat. But if you can chain into it, it just makes it that much better. But obviously I'm taking a risk because I'm keeping my middle open, had to break the yellow there, but I got another one coming, and then it just came together. But he luckily was heavily waiting on that red, just wanted to keep having me build it for him, and it gave me the time. He was off my back. I was able to put that together real fast. Chains in the middle, to me, are worth more than chains in the end. I mean, classic placeholder, there's a placeholder. I noticed when the green's broken, I'm going to have one space where the yellow wouldn't hit right, so I put the red there as a placeholder. This comes together just right. And then notice how the red's a placeholder. It does nothing more than allow me to connect that yellow. Hey, with this one here, I felt like I wanted to flip my script again because I didn't like the prospects of the original chain. So here we go again. Now I got my yellow. Here's horizontal addition. Notice I put that to the side there. Keep them reds separate. Otherwise, there I get my green. Otherwise, this wouldn't work. Because notice how there's one red. If I would have connected those, this red would have just died. It wouldn't have broke. Notice I had to make that green tail longer too. Otherwise, the green, if I wouldn't have made that tail longer, it wouldn't have made impact. So you need to make your tail extended. Be careful to keep things separate. A lot of times you're working in close quarters. I, for some reason, started in the middle on this one. I don't know why. Typically, I would never do that. It didn't look that favorable at this point. But now I'm posting up off the yellow. I take a chance. I'll post up off the green. I got my green here, but I also, that's stack awareness. I needed one down there. So now I get the blue to the green. So there it is. I notice I got the blue. I know I can take that chance. And then this here allows me to get a very nice chain. This goes all the way down the pipe. And notice that green breaker all the way down. That was just, I put that one on the top because I knew that's what I needed. Never give up on a stack. A lot of times you think, like, wow, the probability would be small I get what I need. Hey, think like, hey, if you get that breaker, know what you need to add another one onto the chain. So here we got immediate vertical stack with some, I'm using one away, just like I always do. And then, now here I could chain into the power gem. You chain into the power gem, you're just in a much bigger, my sixth chain is a massive power gem. That was 60 right there. So it just adds all kinds of extra on. And here, I'm trying to use all these greens they're giving me. It's very strange. Just keep posting up here is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to use placeholders here because, see, I want to use that green that they gave me. So there's a red and the green, which I needed perfectly. I don't like to do green on green, but there's just so much breakers going on that I feel like I could afford to waste one. So now notice the placeholder right there. Green to the green in a very unorthodox manner than you usually see me chain. And that was because I used those double placeholders because I had two pieces that I knew I only wanted it to fall one space. I break that one, it falls one space. As long as I put stuff in between, they act as placeholders. It'll line up as if I was one or two away. So here, I'm posting up my green's my ignition, but right now it's not that promising. Great, the blue's my ignition. Green's my ignition. Here we go again. Hate to do the breaker on breaker, but I just take it. I take it. If I would have done the red, if I would have broken the power gem there, notice it wouldn't have lined up because it would have dropped that stack further than the one I wanted. So you got to be careful there. But instead I got the quick 6. It worked out just fine. So here we're going modify, keep those yellows separate. Notice that that's important because otherwise the chain will fall apart. But now I'm getting a lot of blue and yellow. So I keep it, and this works out wonderfully there. I mean, that was a dream piece, dream setup. Into the power gem. Got to keep these yellows separate, otherwise you wouldn't get the tail end. So here we got one in the corner. Flip the ignition. Yellow's it. One or two away off the blue. Finish the yellow. There's the red's my ignition. Constantly adding one to there's yellow. That's the one I needed to satisfy. Dip it in there. Yellow's my ignition. Okay, the green I'll take because I needed that. That power gem down there is big. It's probably ain't going to miss. So there's yellow. I try to see if I could use that red to get to it, but then it would have messed up the red that I needed there. So no, there wasn't any opportunities to add one. But notice how you're into the power gem. If I would have had that green up one more, I could have even got the red off that. It would have been a more definitive win, but wasn't needed. So, bury the breaker, flip the ignition. Hate to do breaker on breaker, but I take it. Here's a placeholder. This is going to be a placeholder. A double placeholder. So now I can't put that. You see, now I got green. Perfect. Now, another placeholder. So now I get this yellow here, a quick 6. Placeholders are just falling into line. Said unless you got something that you've planned for that, you're finished. Especially if you're filling up your middle. If your middle is completely empty, you're probably even done. But if you're filling it up, it's going to be a real hard time. Flip the ignition, stack awareness, get the red there. Here's my green that I need. Post it up away. I'm digging out right there. I'm digging out because normally it would have been difficult. Now if I break the red, I get to it. So I'm pivoting off the yellow. There's the yellow that I needed. Okay, now we got to build up to that ignition. There's the red. So now I just need a yellow. Luckily it comes just in the nick of time as he's about to trigger his 6th chain. And this is one of my favorite instances when somebody triggers a chain and you go over the top of them and what you give is enough to finish. That's a satisfying moment. So we got going here. So hardly any breakers being seen. I give the blue first, which is a lot different. So I change my ignition. Now I'm going that the yellow's the green's my new ignition. So I still need a yellow to finish off over the lower left. I get a mundane piece there. I do it. Let's see. Oh, perfect. That was everything I needed. So that was a horizontal addition with the red there at the end, and this will be plenty here. And he even gets a lot of times when they break, because what you're worried about when you chain like that is you're worried about them getting their diamond in the middle. If they start chaining, then you think like, oh, I'll have plenty of time here. So that's the end of it. This was just the last. I reviewed just a couple of games that I played over the past month. It was all I'd been able to find. I know there's some more probably good examples that I could have, but I believe that really gives most of my principles. Again, I hope it's useful for you. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see or have anything. And thanks again, fellas. Have a good one.